Hyunju briefly explained. If stocks and bonds are representative of financial assets, then oil and gold are representative of tangible assets. Until the financial crisis hit, oil prices were close to $150 per barrel. However, following the financial crisis and the slowdown in economic growth, demand decreased and prices dropped. What ignited this was the development of shale gas and shale oil in the United States. The presence of gas and oil in shale rock has been known for a long time. However, due to costs and technological issues, drilling had been impossible. But with oil prices consistently above $100 per barrel and the development of new technologies, drilling became feasible. American companies began breaking shale rock and extracting the gas and oil within. The quantities found were immense, leading to what became known as the shale revolution. Do you know what the world's top 3 oil types are? I learned this in my world economy class. Brent crude from the North Sea of Northwest Europe, Dubai crude from the Middle East, and West Texas Intermediate WTI. Right? By the way, South Korea mainly imports Dubai crude among these. Hyunju nodded with a smile. Exactly. As you can see, the US is an oil-producing country. However, despite this, the US could not meet its domestic demand and maintained its position as the largest importer. But everything changed with the shale revolution. The amount of shale gas and oil produced in the US was enough to potentially change the US from a major oil importer to an oil exporter. Naturally, oil-producing nations were in chaos. Oil demand is inelastic. When prices rise, consumption doesn't immediately decrease and vice versa. This led to a supply-driven pricing structure. OPEC functioned essentially as an internationally recognized cartel. Whenever they colluded, oil prices fluctuated, leading to the first and second oil shocks. However, outside this cartel, the US emerged as a new supplier. The once bright prospect of oil prices exceeding $200 per barrel vanished, and prices continued to plummet. Demand is fixed anyway. To raise prices, it was necessary to reduce supply. OPEC member countries hastily held several meetings to cut production, but the results were always unsuccessful. The interests of oil-producing countries are too intricately intertwined. The biggest drawback of shale oil is that it is expensive to produce. With production costs estimated at around $45 per barrel, if oil prices fall below $50 per barrel, it is said that more than half of the companies will go bankrupt. Oil-producing countries on the verge of collapse, like Venezuela, may support production cuts because they could go bankrupt if oil prices fall further. But countries like Saudi Arabia, with a lot of money at stake, are taking a stance to hold on without cuts for the time being. If low oil prices persist, it will be difficult for shale companies as well. What do you think the outcome of this meeting will be? Most likely they will fail to reach an agreement. They are barely maintaining around $60 per barrel, and if it fails this time, it will likely drop below $50. Big players are already betting on that side, with WTI prices dropping more than 8% just this week. The excessive rise and fall of oil prices are problems in themselves. A decrease in oil prices at this point is having a negative impact on the economy. What if an agreement is reached? Prices would skyrocket and the market would cheer, but the likelihood is very low. Still, a deal might be reached this time. Hyunju gave me a puzzled look at my statement. Why do you think that? I blurted out without thinking. I was being vague. I just think it would be nice if it happens. Hyunju smiled bitterly. It would be nice indeed, but hope and prediction are different things. As our conversation ended, Hyunju's phone rang again. Buzz. After checking the message, Hyunju stood up from her seat. I'm all ready. I have to go now to work. See you next time. Jinhoo, take care of him. Yes, don't worry. Taekyu clicked his tongue. I'm the one taking care of Jinhoo. You don't even know. We got back into the car to head home. While Taekyu was driving, I kept thinking about what I saw earlier. What does the OPEC production cut agreement mean? Naturally, it means that OPEC is agreeing to cut production, right? If the agreement goes through, oil prices will skyrocket. Even without Hyunju's words, it's common sense. At that moment, a thought popped into my head. What if I buy oil in advance? If this is really foresight and what I saw is correct, then just by purchasing oil in advance I could make a lot of money, couldn't I? I think I just had a brilliant idea. I calmly considered the idea. I predicted the artillery explosion and the Mountain Hill bankruptcy. Following the law of induction, this OPEC cut should also be correct. Let's think about the weaknesses of induction later. The problem is the investment capital. After giving my mother the down payment for the house and 100 million won, I currently have 250 million won left in my account and 740 million won in Taekyu's account. Should I invest in all of this? As I was thinking this, Taekyu asked me, "Did you see something when you were talking with Nuna earlier?" "Huh. You did see something, right? What was it? What did you see?" Kids have a keen sense of pointless things. Wait. Come to think of it, I only have about 1 billion won with me, but he has more than 10 times that amount. I asked Taekyu while looking at him, "Do you happen to be thinking of buying oil?" Taekyu looked bewildered. "Oil? Buy oil? We're fully stocked on gasoline right now." "No, I'm not talking about filling up your car. It's something else." I explained what I had seen and the idea that just came to mind. Taekyu was taken aback after hearing me out. "So you're saying you predicted the OPEC production cut agreement, and if it goes through, oil prices will rise, so we should buy it in advance." Exactly. Thankfully, he understood it easily. But where would we keep the oil after buying it? Stack barrels at home. Looks like he didn't fully grasp the idea. Asterisk 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 asterisk. We arrived at Taekyu's one-room apartment in Yeoksamdong. As soon as we entered the house, Taekyu cleared the dishes on the desk and turned on the computer. He opened a browser and immediately searched for U.S. oil WTI price. The United States struggles to handle its domestic oil production alone. Even if trading takes place, the oil is not exported overseas. Despite that, due to the developed nature of the financial market in the United States, it was playing a role in determining international oil prices. As Hyunju Nuna mentioned, WTI price barely held the $60 per barrel mark. To be precise, it was $60.48. It has dropped significantly. Crude oil is not only used for filling up cars but is also utilized across various industries. Therefore, a rise in oil prices significantly impacts producer prices. When my father operated the factory, he struggled due to oil prices exceeding $100 per barrel. But now, after a few years, it has hit this rock bottom. Shale oil is truly amazing. Taekyu logged into his Golden Gate account. Even after sending me 500 million, he still had a balance of $11,932,000. Around $673,000, which is my share. WTI? Where can we buy that? At the New York Mercantile Exchange, NYMEX. Taekyu seemed excited about something. How much are you thinking of buying? Since we can't predict the outcome, let's start with about half a bet. $300,000. Then let's buy mine together. How much are you going to buy? About $10 million. Dollars. Yes, dollars. I was speechless and said, "How can you call that an appropriate amount? Are you out of your mind?" Then $5 million? Did he lose control suddenly because of the newfound money? This is not a sure thing, buddy. You're confident? Then it should work out fine. And if it doesn't? Hey. $3 million. Can't go any lower. Do as you please. The market was predicting the failure of the production cutback meeting. As the market had already factored in this prediction, the oil prices had dropped significantly. Even if the cutback fails, the further decline might not be substantial. If we're wrong, we can just sell at a little loss. Asterisk 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 asterisk. I went into Taekyu's account and bought WTI. It sounds unbelievable, $3.3 million, a sum unimaginable for an ordinary person. With trembling hands, I clicked the buy button. What should we do now? We have to wait for the OPEC meeting to end. /N. Common financial knowledge. Supply and GT demand equals price falls. Supply and LT demand equals price increases. Example. Let's assume you are selling tomatoes at a market price of 20 Indian rupees per kilogram, and you currently have more than 100 kilograms of tomatoes at your farm. Now, due to bad weather conditions, tomato production is cut down by half. The demand for tomatoes remains constant, but the reduced supply due to bad weather conditions causes demand to exceed supply. Consequently, the market price starts to rise. Do you remember about a year ago when the price of tomatoes shot up to more than 250 Indian rupees per kilogram? The shale revolution. refers to the combination of hydraulic fracturing and horizontal drilling that enabled the United States to significantly increase its production of oil and natural gas, particularly from tight oil formations, which now account for 36% of total U.S. crude oil production. This new production capacity has reduced the United States' dependence on oil imports from overseas and continues to provide an important economic boost as the country recovers from the 2008 recession. Oil and gas constituted 1.6% of the United States' GDP in 2011 and is growing. The United States is now a leading oil and gas producer, as global supply has diversified away from the Middle East. Reduced imports of hydrocarbons improve the U.S. trade balance and minimize direct financial support for oil-exporting regimes which may act counter to U.S. interests. Through the increase of domestic oil production, net petroleum imports have dropped to 27% of total U.S. consumption, the lowest figure since 1985. Politicians hope that the shale boom could foster an era of U.S. energy independence, whereby domestic production satisfies consumption. However, as oil is priced in a global market, as long as the United States remains connected to global markets, it will always be vulnerable to price shocks. Even if the United States continues to cut its imports of petroleum to nearly zero, a supply interruption in the Middle East would force global oil prices upward, hurting U.S. consumers. While this one great pool logic is true for oil, the market for natural gas is more regionally disjointed and therefore presents a unique set of challenges. U.S. is the largest oil-producing country in the world, 13,295,000 barrels/day. The United States is a net crude oil importer, meaning it imports more crude oil than it exports. In 2020, the U.S. imported nearly 5.88 million barrels per day and exported about 3.18 million barrels per day. The main sources of U.S. oil imports are Canada 52%, Mexico 11%, OPEC nations 11%, and Saudi Arabia 7%. The first oil shock and second oil shock refer to significant disruptions in the global oil market that occurred in the 20th century. First oil shock, 1973 to 1974. This shock was triggered primarily by the Arab oil embargo of 1973. The members of the Organization of Arab Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, imposed an embargo on oil exports to countries that supported Israel during the Yom Kippur War, October 1973. The sudden reduction in oil supply led to a sharp increase in oil prices. The price of oil quadrupled from around $3 per barrel to nearly $12 per barrel. This had a profound impact on the global economy, leading to inflation and economic recessions in many countries that were heavily reliant on oil imports. Second oil shock, 1979 to 1980 cause. The second oil shock was primarily driven by the Iranian Revolution of 1979. Political instability in Iran disrupted oil production and exports from the country. Oil prices surged again, doubling from around $15 per barrel to over $30 per barrel. This spike in oil prices exacerbated inflationary pressures and economic downturns in many countries, particularly in the West. Both oil shocks highlighted the vulnerability of economies heavily dependent on oil imports and underscored the geopolitical influence of oil-producing countries on global markets. These events also prompted many countries to pursue energy diversification strategies and increased efforts to conserve energy resources. When I suddenly had 1.24 billion, I felt like I owned the world. But thinking rationally, it wasn't enough money to live a carefree life forever. Acting recklessly just because of a sudden windfall is a recipe for disaster. Don't we hear about lottery winners losing everything and ending up homeless within a decade? To avoid that fate, one must stay grounded and responsible. I thought to myself, but just the idea of having a lot of money made me feel content. Do I really need to look for tutoring jobs? I pondered. Ring. My phone rang. I knew who it was. What? If you're free, come over. Let's play some games. With nothing else to do, I lounged around. I threw on some clothes hastily. I'll stop by Takeyu's place. Takeyu's studio apartment had a separate living room, making it quite spacious for one person. However, with video games, comics, action figures, and various knickknacks scattered around, the place resembled more of a junkyard. Except for the sofa and bed, finding a spot to lie down was a challenge. Inside the apartment, Taekyu sat on the couch, engrossed in a game. Today should have been the day for the results announcement. However, there was still no news. Did you contact Hyunju Nuna? Taekyu asked, not taking his eyes off the game screen. Yeah. She said the results might be out tomorrow. Really? Doesn't a prolonged meeting usually signal that things aren't going well? Something feels ominous. WTI has dropped an additional 3% compared to when we bought it. I alone have already lost 10 million won, and together we have lost 100 million won. Did I misunderstand something? While I was feeling anxious, Taekyu didn't seem to care much. Are you okay? What's there to not be okay about? We have our Oracle Eye, remember? Since when did it become our Oracle Eye? Taekyu handed me a game controller. Let's play a game. The answers will be out by tomorrow. There's no point in worrying, as the situation won't change just because I'm anxious. It's better to be as relaxed as he is. I held onto the game controller and sat down next to Taekyu. After playing games until dawn, I fell asleep as if collapsing from exhaustion. Covered in a blanket on the sofa, I suddenly felt Taekyu waking me up. Hey, wake up. Let me sleep a bit more. I said, get up. What's up? Wake me up later. As I reached out my hand to go back to sleep, Taekyu said, the OPEC results are out. What? My eyes widened involuntarily. I sat up straight and asked, what happened? Taekyu pointed to the computer. Take a look for yourself. I sat at the desk and peered at the monitor. The articles were flooded with news related to the OPEC production cut agreement. Breaking news. OPEC reaches a dramatic agreement on production cuts. Urgent, non-OPEC countries also join in production cuts. Aviation industry on emergency alert due to OPEC production cuts. Impact inevitable. Will gasoline prices rise? International oil prices surge with OPEC production cut decision. I clicked on any random article. OPEC member countries have agreed to cut oil production after a long meeting. OPEC, in a meeting held in Kuwait, has decided to reduce daily production by 2.5 million barrels starting from the 1st of next month. OPEC Secretary General Mohammed Barkindo announced that the member countries will comply with this agreement. The market immediately welcomed the measures, which were much stronger than expected. WTI, which was hovering around $60 per barrel, surged to over $70 per barrel upon news of the agreement, and the Dow Jones, which was initially declining, rose by 150 points. Most of the other articles had similar content. I couldn't contain my astonishment. What on earth? I checked the WTI price. It had risen to $73. Just minutes after OPEC announced the production cut, it had surged by over 20%. Check our accounts. Taekyu opened the accounts. I only found out about the production cut agreement. I had no idea what would happen next. Let's sell everything for now. I quickly sold all of my holdings. Taekyu asked, how much did you make? $630,000. In Korean won, it's approximately 700 million won. I had made in an instant what most people couldn't earn in a lifetime. It was unbelievable. That's just how finance works. If you succeed in your investment, it's only natural to take profits proportional to your capital. See, shouldn't my share be around 60 million won? What was 740 million won is now 800 million won. Taekyu said regretfully, I should have bought $3 million more. I should have bought the initial $10 million I thought of. It's common to have such thoughts after a successful investment. If only I had gone all in on futures options from the beginning? Do you know what futures options are? But if he had really done that, he could have made hundreds of billions. Wasn't it an incredible success? What do you mean? All the experts predicted it wouldn't work out, but you knew it would be agreed upon as soon as you heard about it. That's true, but... In reality, when you remove the details, the outcome of a meeting is binary. It either reaches an agreement or it doesn't. So, even if it was lucky to hit the mark, it's not surprising, but if it happened once or twice, it might be possible, but this is already the third time. Precognition is real. Gosh. Do I really have superpowers now? Like the superheroes in comics or movies. When one thinks of superpowers, they imagine flying in the sky, smashing buildings with their fists, or manipulating objects with telekinesis. Compared to those abilities, precognition might not seem like much. However, viewed from a different perspective, that's not true. You can fly in the sky using an airplane and buildings can be demolished with a crane. Such superpowers can easily be replaced by machines. But precognition cannot be replaced by anything. Even with the advancements in computers and artificial intelligence, predicting the future remains impossible. What if you could know election results beforehand? Or foresee the outcomes of sports matches like soccer or baseball? What if you could accurately predict natural disasters like earthquakes or typhoons? That's an incredibly unbelievable ability. I calmed my excitement and thought rationally. If this is really a superpower, when did it manifest in me? There should be a reason for it, shouldn't there? Taikyu provided an answer to my question. I told you. You had latent superpowers within you and they awakened in a critical moment. Usually that's called awakening. Then why didn't it show for a while after that? If holograms kept appearing in front of my eyes, I would have rushed straight to the casino as soon as I had a break. Sitting at the baccarat table betting 1,000,000 on the first round and doubling it each time I win. After just 10 rounds, the million would turn into 10,240 million won. And if I continued for another 10 rounds, it would cross 1 trillion. Just by flipping the cards 20 times I could earn money in the hundreds of millions. Of course, realistically it's impossible. Casinos have limits on betting amounts. Well, there are plenty of easy ways to make money not just in casinos. But I didn't see anything after that. So I too thought it was just a delusion and moved on. Then why did it start appearing again? Taikyu crossed his arms, lost in thought. Then he murmured. It appeared when I was talking about Bantcoin and when my sister was talking about the OPEC meeting. Could it be the ability to foresee things related to finance? Suddenly that seemed possible. But this raises a question that doesn't quite make sense. What about the cannon explosion? That was a situation where lives were at stake, so we should consider it an exception. Oh wait. What happened next? What? After the explosion. Wasn't that quite big news? It was. When Taikyu typed KM188 explosion into the search bar, a series of old articles popped up. At that time, the military was facing public criticism due to incidents of abuse by military police and sexual harassment in the army. The explosion incident that occurred then spread like wildfire through the media. The opposition parties criticized the military, and an investigation team was formed. The investigation results were shocking. The new cannon had defects from the beginning, and the defense agency knew it but turned a blind eye. The accident was nothing short of planned from the start. 3 active duty generals were stripped of their ranks over this, and the investigation expanded into wider defense corruption. Whether then or now, the defense industry is a breeding ground for corruption. Those involved were being arrested one after another and, as the suppliers of KM188, Unsung Precision Chemicals as well as Korean Aerospace Industries, Won Defense and other defense companies, all saw their stock prices plummet. So, isn't that also related to finance? It's not a wrong statement. However, if you look at it that way, aren't all the things happening in the world directly or indirectly related to finance? /N. If you start trading in futures. Option F&O. Without having knowledge of future. Option F&O. Then you will have no future. Left with no option. When OPEC, Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, or any major oil-producing country or cartel decides to cut production, it reduces the total supply of oil available in the market. Meanwhile, if demand remains constant or even increases slightly, the imbalance between reduced supply and constant demand causes oil prices to rise. This phenomenon occurs because with less oil available, buyers in the market bid up the price in order to secure their needed quantities. Thus, when OPEC implements production cuts or any significant reduction in supply occurs, whether due to geopolitical factors, natural disasters or other reasons, it typically leads to higher oil prices as demand remains stable or grows. Overall, this illustrates the basic principle of supply and demand in the oil market. When supply decreases and demand holds steady or rises, prices tend to increase. Taikyu said, "Oh, I just had a great idea. What do you think?" Usually when he says something like that, it's nonsense. This time too I have a bad feeling. What is it? Taikyu's proposal was simple. I'll provide the capital, you use your superpower. We invest together and split the profits 50-50. How does that sound? Wow. Predicting and splitting it 50-50 using a superpower? It's a tempting offer, but investing always comes with potential losses, despite how good the proposal may seem. While no one invests with the intention of losing money, in reality, there are more people who have lost than gained through investments. What if things go south? Will I take half back? Do you have the money to take back? Sometimes it's just inevitable. He's right. If I lose a significant amount of money, I have no way to take it back. In the end, profits will be split evenly, but Take-You will bear the losses alone. Is it even legal to make such a contract? It's a gamble with money to make money. If possible, I would like to do it as many times as I can. However, there is a major issue in reality. Even if Take-You claims it's a superpower, there's no guarantee that what I see is always 100% accurate. It might just be showing a random future with a reasonably high probability. Can I trust only the holograms that appear before my eyes and make investments? In investments, information must have clear sources and bases. Information without these is practically useless. Even if he has been right all this time, what if he's wrong next time? Even if all the swans you have seen so far are white, there is no law in the world that says there are no black swans. If Oracle Eye is wrong and we lose billions, can we handle that situation? But what if superpowers are real? As Take-You said, this is a tremendous opportunity. I have superpowers and Take-You has 13 billion won. Just by investing based on Oracle's predictions, can't we make a huge amount of money? Take-You confidently extended his right hand to me as I hesitated. Friend, take my hand. Let's invest together if you do. What if I don't? Then we're done seeing each other for good. I alternated my gaze between Take-You's face and the hand he offered. After pondering for a moment, my phone suddenly rang. Ring ring. It was my childhood friend Min Young. I decided to answer the call for now. Hello. I'm meeting with Ki Hong at a bar in Hongdae later. Since you got discharged, he wants us to meet up. Ki Hong was a senior in the business department when I enrolled. He was well-liked and popular among juniors, regardless of gender. We had a good relationship from participating in club activities together. I hadn't seen him since the military, but I heard he graduated and got a job at KYB Investment Securities. How long do we have? We are meeting at the bar in front of the school in an hour. Got it. I turned to Take-You and said, I have a prior engagement, let's discuss this in detail when I get back. As I stealthily stepped back, Take-You shouted in surprise, Hey! Don't go, dude. As I entered the underground bar, Min Young and Kyung-Jil were seated and waving at me. Min Young waved her hand, Hey Kong Jin-Hoo. I'm a reservist now. Kyung-Jil chuckled and asked, How long has it been? Coming back from the military soon? I honestly replied, Try not to go if possible. I met my classmates after almost 2 years. But thanks to frequently keeping in touch with Min Young, I knew a bit about what had been happening in our department. On the opposite side, 2 unfamiliar female students were sitting. Who? I asked, and Kyung-Jil responded, Oh, let me introduce you. The freshman who entered this year. This is our classmate Kong Jin-Hoo, recently discharged from the military. The girls stood up, bowed their heads politely and greeted me, Hello, senior. We've heard a lot about you from Min Young senior. The tall, blonde-haired female student was named Shin Yuri, while the short-haired female student was Huang Jihai. Due to the nature of the business administration department where there is a strong male presence, the number of female students has increased in recent years, but it is still predominantly male with about a 7-to-3 ratio. Therefore, female freshmen are welcome beings in themselves. Compared to Min Young, who dressed hastily, Kyung-Jil was in a state of readiness, even having wax in his hair. Without reason, Kyung-Jil lowered his voice and spoke to Yuri. Drink slowly, Yuri. Yes, senior. When you become a sophomore, you will take Professor Kim Myungjin's classes. I could give you advice about his teaching style. He was focusing on giving lectures to a female junior even though he had messed up all his grades. He was proud as a fellow student, but it was too much. What about Ji Hong Sr.? He's running late due to something. Let's just drink among ourselves for now. Kyung-Jil poured me a drink in my glass. Planning to return to school next year? I'm considering it. Family matters and tuition fees are completely sorted out. There is no problem in returning to school. It would be best to return as soon as possible and graduate quickly, right? We clinked our glasses and caught up on overdue conversations. When my glass was empty and I tried to pour more, another hand grabbed the soju bottle first. I'll pour for you. Yuri filled my glass with alcohol. Oh, thank you. Pour me a drink too. I poured alcohol into her glass. Drink well. Jill, who was already drunk at a similar pace, was babbling nonsense. Huang Jihai also seemed half asleep, possibly also drunk. But apart from her slightly flushed cheeks, Xin Yuri looked fine. She smiled and said, I'm good with up to 3 bottles of soju. Young people these days have quite the alcohol tolerance. As we kept drinking on empty stomachs, we quickly started feeling tipsy. After laughing and chatting for about 30 minutes, a man in his late 20s dressed in a suit and tie walked in. Minyoung quickly raised her hand. Welcome, senior. Have you all been doing well? He asked. Usually seen in a university hoodie, seeing him in a suit felt different. He could be described as professional in a good way or old-fashioned in a bad way. Senior Jehong sat down and said, Hey. Long time no see, Kang Jin-ho. How was your military service? Good. When you get leave, at least let us know, buddy. I chuckled. You've been busy with getting a job. How have you been? Just living day by day. Minyoung poured soju into Senior Jiahong's glass. It's better than not getting a job like some other seniors. Isn't the financial sector reducing new hires these days? Senior Jiahong downed his soju with a tired expression. Seems like it. Commercial banks might be okay, but investment banks will have even fewer new hires next year compared to this year. Banks are broadly divided into 2 types: commercial banks and investment banks, IB. Commercial banks make profits through deposits and loans, while investment banks raise capital to make profits through investments. In Korea, the former are simply called banks, and the latter are referred to as securities firms or investment trust companies. KYB Securities, where Senior Jiahong joined, is naturally an investment bank. These days there are talks of restructuring and reshuffling of personnel. The company atmosphere is quite unsettling, said surprised. Restructuring? But KYB Securities is doing well, he asked. Just because it's doing well? This time KYB Securities and Duri Securities are merging. After the merger of the second and fourth largest securities firms by capital, once the merger is complete, they will rise to the top in the industry. The emergence of a large-scale IB is a good thing, but from an employee's perspective, it's not such good news. After the merger there will be significant layoffs. Employees with overlapping roles will need to be reassigned or resign on their own, explained Gihong. Isn't it okay for a new employee like me? Asked Jill. Restructuring typically targets employees with high salaries and long tenure. Unlike other professions, securities firms generally have a relatively short retirement age. It's not easy to hold on to a position even in your 40s. I'm thinking about offering voluntary retirement to new employees too. It's a dilemma as work isn't as enjoyable as I expected, Jiahong shared. What will you do if you leave? I'll look into the private equity fund sector. I've always been interested in mergers and acquisitions, he replied. Private equity funds differ from typical mutual funds as they aim to acquire companies by receiving large investments from a few investors. Minyoung sighed and said, I thought finding a job would be the end, but it seems not. That's the truth, Jiahong agreed, downing his drink. Minyoung and Jill's expressions darkened. Hearing such discussions naturally brings worries about employment. In times of economic prosperity and a booming stock market, graduating from a business school was once considered a sure thing. But that's an old story now. The shadow of youth unemployment that covered South Korea in the 21st century was unavoidable even for the financial sector. With most transactions being digitized and tellers disappearing, the financial sector was on a trend of reducing the workforce. Senior Jiahong, who succeeded in finding a job at once, was a lucky case. There were quite a few seniors who either pursued a completely different career path or delayed graduation because they couldn't find employment. Studying diligently for employment from now on would still not be enough to avoid that fate. Starting with soju, beer was added to the drinking sessions and gradually they began mixing soju with beer. Jiahong tended to become talkative when drunk. With his face flushed, he continued to speak his mind. For decades after the Korean War, the manufacturing industry grew dazzlingly. There were dozens of well-known companies like Song Electronics or Unsung Motors. However, is there a single financial institution among banks, securities firms, or fund companies that foreigners would recognize? No. On the other hand, international investment banks like PESH, Moody's, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, and Goldman Sachs are encroaching on the Korean market. Who is the leading company in Korea? Min Young responded, Seoung Electronics. Everyone says that. But frankly, is Seoung Electronics really a Korean company? The chairman is Korean. It's listed on the Kospi. Then what about the Chinese e-commerce company Alibaba? Jack Ma is Chinese, but the company is listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And what about Lotte Group? Many of its subsidiaries are listed on the stock exchange, and although most of its revenue comes from Korea, the chairman is a Korean Japanese and the holding company is in Japan. Well, Jae-hong interjected, foreigners hold 53% of Seoung Electronics shares. Half of the market capitalization is divided among foreign IBs, wealth funds, private equity funds and pension funds. Seoung Electronics is not alone in this situation. A third of the stock market is owned by foreigners. Yet every year when the season comes, the media starts clamoring about how much foreigners took in dividends, or how much they made from the price difference. Isn't it natural for them to take profits if they invest? I asked. Jae-hong nodded. Right. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Who owns the multi-story buildings in Yeouido? The hotels along the Han River? Franchise chains like Hengbun Jjigae, Lydia Coffee and Master Pizza in every neighborhood? They are all owned by foreign capital. Even the QB beer we are drinking now. While drinking Somek, soju and beer mixed, Kyung-jil burping said, Isn't QB beer ours? You think all Korean beers taste bad? Jizen Group sold it to KRR, which is a British PF. KRR then sold it to TM Consortium 5 years later. Made a profit 5 times its value. And capital investment. This refers to the money invested in a business or project. In the context of the novel, Taekyu offers to provide capital, meaning he would supply the money needed for the investment. Profit sharing. The proposal involves splitting the profits from the investment 50-50. This means that both parties would share the earnings equally. Commercial banks focus on deposits and loans. They generate profit from interest on loans and services. Investment banks specialize in raising capital, underwriting, and financial advisory services. They make money through investments and financial transactions. Securities firms/investment trust companies. These firms handle investments such as stocks and bonds, and provide investment management services. Private equity funds. Investment funds that buy companies or invest in private enterprises. They aim to acquire companies and make significant returns through strategic management and eventual sale. Restructuring and layoffs. Refers to organizational changes within a company, often resulting in job cuts or role adjustments. In the context of the novel, KYB Securities is merging with another firm, leading to potential layoffs. Mergers and acquisitions. The process where companies merge or one company acquires another. This can lead to changes in company structure and personnel. Foreign ownership. Refers to the ownership of significant portions of a company or assets by foreign investors. For example, foreign capital owning major shares in Korean companies or properties. Market capitalization. The total value of a company's outstanding shares of stock. It's an indicator of a company's total value in the market. Senior Jae-hong, looking frustrated, said, During the IMF crisis, many domestic companies were sold off to foreign capital at cheap prices. Back then, Seoung Electronics bought for 30,000 or 50,000 won are now over 1.4 million won. Since the 2008 financial crisis, foreign investment banks have completed restructuring and are aggressively investing again, while Korean investment banks are lagging. Why can't we do it like them? The world is changing rapidly with the fourth industrial revolution, fintech and blockchain. If finance cannot keep up with these trends, we may face similar problems as before. Senior Jae-hong continued with a twisted tongue. There may be great entrepreneurs, but there are no great investors. That's the reality of this country. But now we need such people in Korea. We must compete confidently with foreign capital. We might face criticism from foreign media for embezzlement. This is not just about having money. Advanced countries have a history and culture of capitalism spanning hundreds of years, while our financial sector is still in its early stages. Will that day come? To my question, Senior Jae-hong replied with a wry smile. Well, who knows, maybe. As they laughed and chatted while drinking, someone's phone rang. Ring. Yuri picked up the phone. I am with Senior Ji Hong and other seniors at a Korean pub right now. Yes, you can come in. After a brief conversation, Yuri hung up the phone. Who was that? Asked Kyan Jill. Yuri casually replied. Sun Bae-huna. We were supposed to meet today, and since they were drinking with seniors, they asked us to join. Slashin. Sunbae equals senior. What? Everyone was surprised by this. Min Young spoke admonishingly. What if Suna comes here? Yuri had a look on her face that she didn't understand. What? Was I not supposed to call her? Well. All eyes turned towards me. In fact, I was the most embarrassed one right now. Oh my. What should I do? Should I just run away? Or hide in the restroom? As I was thinking that, the door of the bar opened and a woman in a white coat walked in. Tall for a woman, slender with well-defined curves, a small face with large eyes, fair skin and long hair. I looked at her in surprise and she seemed equally surprised, widening her eyes. Kang Jin-hoo. It was their first meeting after the breakup. The atmosphere at the drinking party was painfully awkward. Tap tap. Senior Jae-hong tapped the table with chopsticks and said, Come on, why is the mood like this when we haven't met in so long? Let's have a drink. Cheers. Like. Glasses clinked. I pretended to drink soju and glanced at Sienna. She seemed unfazed, chatting with others around her. Am I the only one feeling nervous for no reason? It might be better to just get drunk. Then my mind would be at ease. I continued to drink. As I poured more alcohol into my empty glass, Sienna subtly slid her phone towards me on the table. It was written like this there. Want to go have coffee? Asterisk 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 asterisk. I left the drinking party and sat at a 24-hour cafe. Despite the late hour, the seats were quite filled. A couple who looked like students were studying with TOEIC books spread out. They seemed to be planning to study together all night. Sienna, who brought our 2 coffees, sat across from me. I decided to relax. After all, if I go back to school, we will inevitably run into each other. Dating and breaking up within the same department is not uncommon. If we were to avoid each other over such things, a significant number would probably drop out every year. The problem lies in dating in the sacred dwelling of wisdom itself. If only we focused on studying diligently considering the expensive tuition we pay. Sienna was the first to speak. Long time no see. Yeah. It's been almost 2 years if you really think about it. Did you fare well in the military? Yeah. I managed to get through. It felt like I suffered to the point of death before coming back. I almost really died once. We first met at the freshman welcome party. Among the classmates who had just shed their minor status, Sienna stood out clearly. Beyond just being pretty, Sienna had a captivating charm that drew attention. Regardless of being classmates or seniors, everyone was interested in her. Perhaps everyone wanted to date her. Surprisingly, she chose me. We were officially a couple within the department and stuck together throughout the semester. Looking back now, they were truly happy times. However, as the first year was coming to an end, there were problems at my father's company. My father ran around frantically to save the company, while my mother couldn't sleep due to worry. Even I, who didn't know much about the company situation, could easily tell that things were not looking good. In the end, the company went bankrupt and my father collapsed. Bankruptcy, illness, lawsuits, moving. I don't know what happened. Soon as breaking up was about, all of that was talked about. I didn't even muster the courage to hold on, and that's how we broke up. Apart from a few unpleasant incidents in between, we just met like any other couple and broke up well. How's that senior of yours doing? I remembered the image of the male senior who had come to the school festival for a brief moment. I had seen him for the first time that day, but I had heard a lot about him before. He was that well known. Go Jun-hyung. He was the third son of GH Construction, a subsidiary of a large corporation. I only saw him briefly, but he seemed handsome and had a good personality. Soon after he took a leave of absence from school and enlisted, I heard from Min Young. Suna was dating that senior. She nodded. Yeah, he's doing well. He's doing well. Suddenly a question arose. When did she start dating that senior? Did she start before we broke up? I wanted to ask, but seeing the ring on her left hand, I stopped. What's the point of knowing now? We met after a long time, but her face was the same as before. Only her clothes, bags, and accessories had all changed. Her makeup and style were sophisticated, and her watch, bag, shoes, and everything else looked like luxury brands. You've changed a lot. Sienna forced a bitter smile. Because a lot of time has passed. 2 years is quite a long time for a college student. What did I do during that long time? I worked hard to protect the country. I'm proud of fulfilling my duty to defend the nation. Damn. After hesitating for a moment, Sienna cautiously spoke. I'm sorry for suggesting we break up when things got tough. Well, that's all in the past. Sienna spoke in a calm voice. Jinhoo, I really liked you. Upon hearing these words, I suddenly felt choked up. Perplexed, I asked, what do you mean? It might sound strange, but it's true. From the first time I saw you, you seemed different from others. You always had energy and confidence that you could do anything. That's why I liked you. Then why did you suggest breaking up? Even without hearing it, I could roughly guess the reason. Probably because our family was in trouble. I just seized the opportunity as it came. What opportunity? A chance to date a rich guy. Sienna lowered her head. There's nothing to blame me for even if you criticize. I suggested breaking up first. But I want to pursue my dreams. Dreams? What on earth is she talking about? I didn't quite understand what she was saying. Sienna, seeing my expression, smiled lightly as if she had expected it. I'll go first. Sienna picked up her bag and stood up. I reached out to grab her but hesitated. Instead, I asked a question. What dream are you talking about? Sienna turned her head to look at me and replied briefly. Success. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Instead of returning to the drinking session, I bought a bottle of soju and a pack of snacks from the nearby convenience store and sat under the parasol. Sigh. A white breath escaped from my lips in the chilly night air. Drinking alone, I remembered my father who had passed away. Our house collapsed even before his funeral. My mother asked relatives for help, but no one lent a hand. And Sienna broke up with me. Everything felt like it was crumbling down. Yet there was no time to be sad. Those who are alive have to keep on living somehow. And time passed in a blur. While I was in the military, my mother endured all sorts of hardships. Fortunately, a few days ago, unexpected luck found its way to me. The game character I sold in middle school came back to me worth 1.24 billion won. Success, but what is success? At that moment, a hologram appeared before my eyes. What's this? OTK Company is a paper company that Take-You made as a tax evasion feature. Since it is a one-person corporation, Take-You is the CEO, of course. But why am I the CEO? I stared blankly at the hologram. What does this even mean? Am I supposed to become the CEO of the company Take-You created? The hologram disappeared before my eyes. I intuitively knew that this was something that would happen soon. The past is already gone. No matter what I do, I can't change what has already happened. But the future has not yet come. The future can change depending on my choices. And now is the moment of that choice. OTK Company CEO Kang Jinhoo. Is this the path I should take? A strong conviction felt like hitting my head. I didn't know what the process would be like or what would be at the end, but I felt like trying it once. I got out of the taxi, opened the front door, and went inside the house. Take-You was curled up on the couch, asleep with all the lights on. Hey, wake up. Quickly. After shaking him a few times, Take-You forcibly opened his eyes. Ugh. I was sleeping well, why did you wake me up? Take-You looked at my face and said, how much did you drink? If you're drunk, go home. Give me your hand. Huh. Take-You held out his hand as if he didn't understand what I was talking about. I firmly grasped that hand. Arg. What are you doing? Since I've caught you, we're doing it together. His expression said, what's with the noise of banging a drum while I'm sleeping? What are we doing? Anything. The IMF crisis, or the 1997 Asian financial crisis, was a pivotal event that underscored the interconnectedness of global financial systems and the potential vulnerabilities in rapidly growing economies. The crisis led to substantial economic and social challenges, but it also catalyzed important reforms and changes in financial practices across the affected regions. Involves the integration of technology into offerings by financial services companies to improve their use of financial services. Is a decentralized digital ledger that records transactions across many computers securely and transparently. The Fourth Industrial Revolution. refers to the current trend of technological advancements including artificial intelligence, robotics, blockchain, and fintech. The financial sector must adapt to these rapid technological changes to remain competitive and avoid similar problems experienced during past financial crises. Financial restructuring involves reorganizing a company's structure or operations to improve its financial stability and profitability. I opened my eyes around noon. Ugh. My head was throbbing as if it was about to split. I should have drunk moderately yesterday. But where am I? Seeing the manga scattered on the floor, I realize it's Takeyu's house. As I sat there unable to collect my thoughts for a while, Takeyu spoke. Did you sleep well? I ordered a burger for your hangover. You didn't order it because you wanted to eat it, did you? If you knew that I needed a hangover cure, then you should have ordered hangover soup. However, being the recipient, I quietly sat down and tore open the burger wrapper. What happened last night? I met my ex-girlfriend and had a premonition of something. I hesitated as if about to speak but stopped. If I said that I foresaw becoming the CEO of OTK company, would they misunderstand and think I'm trying to steal their company? I had no such intention at all, but to avoid misunderstandings, I veiled my words. I don't remember well. Takeu looked puzzled. Then what about our oath from last night? What oath? Swear upon our friendship. I blocked the burger fragments flying out of Takeu's mouth with my hand. Okay, let's eat first and then talk. I drank on an empty stomach, so I'm feeling hungry regardless. As I unwrapped the hamburger, I asked a practical question. Have you ever invested? I haven't, but you have. Takeu is far from finance. He didn't invest in cryptocurrencies for profit but received them in exchange for online game characters and equipment. He probably didn't expect it to hit the jackpot. Well, if betting on WTI together counts as investing, then it's an investment. Fortunately, I have some experience in investing. I joined the Practical Investment Club as soon as I entered school, studied, opened an account, and made some direct investments. The problem is, but it was just playing around with $1,000,000. The bigger issue is, I blew half of it. After investing diligently, I lost 500,000 won. In terms of returns, that's a whopping minus 50%. Still, you studied business at a university in Korea, so you must have learned something, right? I only completed 1 year. When people hear business studies, they think it must be a grand learning experience, but in the first year there are only 3 major courses. And even those are theoretical fundamentals at a surface level. Most of the knowledge I have now is from activities in student clubs. How much is in your account now? About $12.55 million. Approximately 13.8 billion won? Not with your money, it's exactly 13 billion. Thanks to buying WTI, I gained $630,000. Ordinary people can't even dream of such a huge sum in their lifetime. What could we possibly do with this money? In terms of investment, the size of capital is extremely important. To earn 1 billion won with 10 million won, you need to make a profit of 1,000%, but with 100 billion won, just a 1% profit is enough. This is why Taekyu could easily earn 700 million won by investing in WTI. Well, having a large capital also means losing big when you lose, but it's probably better than living hand to mouth. Well, where should we start then? Taekyu was burning with enthusiasm. Although I had known him since middle school, it seemed like the first time I saw him so enthusiastic. Why would someone with 13 billion won want to invest, feeling unsatisfied? Even just living off the interest could sustain a lifetime. What would you want to do if you made money? Upon my question, Taekyu blinked and replied, what do I want to do? With money, the possibilities are endless. It's just that people cannot do things due to lack of money. Like buying a nice house or a car. I can afford this house and I like my current car. Taekyu eats whatever food and wears whatever clothes are available. Besides hobbies, he doesn't spend much elsewhere. Then why do you want to earn money? Taekyu said as if it was obvious. The more money you have, the better. *kill/n. Hell yeah. It's hard to argue against such a valid point. It's also fun. Originally, it's fun to earn money. But it's not fun when you lose it. This time Taekyu asked me, what about you? Is there something you want to do with the money you earn? I'll let you know later. To invest, you must first make predictions. Just like the last time, a hologram should appear before my eyes. But it is unclear when and how it will appear. I recalled the situation at that time. It wasn't certain, but it felt like an automatic response when I came across specific information. Can I really predict financial matters as Taikyu suggested? For now, I need information. Asterisk 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 asterisk. I told my mother and decided to stay at Taikyu's house for a while. For several days I sat in front of the computer and read through all the recent economic articles. I meticulously examined the major stocks listed on the stock market by market capitalization ranking. Every day an overwhelming amount of information came up. In investment, information was as crucial as capital. According to that information, stock prices, oil prices, gold prices, exchange rates, bond yields, etc. fluctuated. These days, the disclosure system was well developed, and institutions and companies were obligated to release important information. As a result, with just a few clicks, I could easily investigate positive and negative factors. The problem was that the information I could access was information everyone could access. And information known to everyone loses its value as information. Whether good or bad, prices had already factored in the news. Stocks with good news were already high, and those with bad news had already dropped. Acting based on disclosed information was likely to backfire. I needed information that others didn't know about, like the bankruptcy of Mountain Hill or the OPEC production cuts. However, I stared at the monitor all day until my eyes felt like they were about to pop out, but nothing came to mind. Any response yet? None at all. All I've discovered is that the government's economic policies are a mess and the economy is as difficult as it was during the IMF crisis. Even if we predict, things won't just happen immediately. Take it slow. Am I being overly impatient? Thinking that way, Taikyu spoke. But don't we need to write the contract before doing anything? What contract? The agreement to split the money in half. Isn't it better to receive such things from the other person? It was a kind suggestion. If he was the type to break promises, he wouldn't have sent me 500 million won in the first place. That's why I wasn't worried, even though I had entrusted 800 million won to Taikyu's account. Nevertheless, Taikyu insisted on writing a contract and handing it to me. The contract stated that Taikyu would take full responsibility for any losses, while profits would be split equally. My sister insists that the closer the relationship, the more certain things like this should be done. You should sign too. We both signed the two contracts and split them up. I folded the contract and put it in my wallet, then turned off the computer and got up. I should have a cup of coffee. When I opened the fridge, it was filled with beer, cola, juice and more. Unlike me, who likes coffee, Taikyu insists that all drinks must be sweet. No wonder he gains weight. As I debated whether to go out for coffee, my phone rang. Ding dong. It was a number I had never seen before. Is it spam? I decided to answer it anyway. Hello. Is this Kong Jin-hoo's phone? It was a woman's voice. Well, yes, but who? Oh. This is Shin Yuri, Sr. Shin Yuri? Yes. Do you remember me? I recalled the new student I saw at a drinking session. Maybe it was because of her blonde hair, but I remembered her quickly. How did you get this number? It's a phone I got after my discharge. That's why not many people know this number. I asked Min Young Sr. Oh, I see. This brat just freely gives out other people's personal information. Where are you right now by any chance? I'm in Gangnam. Then Yuri's voice perked up. That's great. I'm in Gangnam too. Oh really? But what's so great about that? What are you doing right now? I'm about to go out for coffee. It's even better. I was thinking of having coffee too. If it's okay with you, would you like to go to a cafe together? Oh. Suddenly meet up? But where in Gangnam are you? I'm near Yeonju Station. Then how about Lydia Coffee Lab in Nonhyundong? It's close to where you are, Senior. Since I was planning to go out for coffee anyway. Got it. How long should I wait? I hung up the phone and quickly got dressed. Taikyu, who was playing a game, asked, Where are you going? I'll go have some coffee and come back. On your way back, buy some lunch boxes at the convenience store. I have plenty of money, let's eat something good. The cafe Yuri mentioned wasn't too far from Taikyu's house. About a 15-minute walk? After crossing the crosswalk and walking up the hill, a large building in the middle of the hill came into view. A woman in her early 20s, wearing a padded jacket, was sitting at an outdoor table near the entrance. Her slim legs and tights peeked out from under her short skirt. As she brushed her hair back and looked at her smartphone, she stood up as I approached and greeted me. "Hello, senior." "Oh, hi." I raised my hand in greeting. Under the warm sunlight, the hair sparkled in a golden hue. Among the business administration students, there aren't many with such flashy hairstyles. The atmosphere at Korea University is conservative, and since the professors are strict, students tend to be cautious. Back then it was dark and I couldn't see clearly, but in the bright light she was quite a beauty. I think I know why Kyunjo was so friendly to her. "By the way, why did you want to see me?" /n. Capital size. Impacts potential returns and risks in investing. Public information. May not provide a financial advantage if it's widely known. Newspaper, TV, etc. Example equals NGT. Apple share is trading at $100 and I got some good non-public information. Only a company insider knows. Now due to the good news/information the share price has increased to $105. Case, I equals NGT. Suppose I bought 100 quantity of shares with a capital size of $10,000. Profit equals $500. Case, 2 equals NGT. Suppose I bought 1,000 quantity of shares with a capital size of $100,000. Profit equals $5,000. Hence your capital size decides your profit, but don't forget that if the share prices had fallen then your losses would also be proportional to the capital used. Formal agreements. In investment partnerships clarify profit and loss sharing.